to stage, remove that one. Okay. I'm going to put us.
Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tabnine Office Hours. My name is Amaya Deshmukh, and I'm head of marketing programs at Tabnine. Chris is on mute.
And I'm Chris Good. I'm a product marketing manager here at Tabnine. And this week, if you were here last week, I have hardwired my network connection. So we're not going to have, hopefully, any networking errors, any Wi-Fi errors this time around. So excited to be here again for another session of Tabnine Office Hours.
Yeah, and I see, Chris, you have upgraded your lighting setup. That is a fantastic ambiance you've got going in your office there. So clearly I need to step my game up here.
We're trying to take steps to make this much more of an exciting session on a weekly basis. So you'll notice some new lights, some blue lights going on in the background. Yeah, we're doing this all for you guys to make this more exciting and more entertaining.
Alrighty, and for our folks joining us on Twitter via our StreamYard registration, YouTube, and LinkedIn, what I need to tell you right as we start is this session is fully live. These are not pre-recorded. We do all of this live on air every single week, and what that means is you'll see a chat icon wherever you're streaming from, and we monitor the chat throughout the entire live stream. And what that means is you are free to ask us any questions, give us comments, and as Chris gets into his demo, you are also free, welcomed, and encouraged to ask us to show you things again, ask us for custom demo requests. We will show you anything you want to see about the Tabnine platform. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so AI is here, right? It's already fundamentally changing how we all work. And over the last 2 years, what we've already experienced in this industry is a massive leap forward in the capability of large language models. And of course, as you know, the area where the impact of that has been most visible is software development. And because of that, adoption of AI among software engineers has been moving very quickly. And the latest estimate from Gartner says that adoption of AI code assistants will surpass 75% of the enterprise within the next 2 years. And there's a fundamental reason for that, right? The productivity gains for engineering teams from using AI have been absolutely incredible. And it doesn't even matter which tool you're using, you're going to see productivity in terms of faster code generation, testing, documentation, what have you. And these solutions have clear value for helping engineering teams to deliver faster. And the specific increase you can come to expect ranges anywhere from 30 to 50% faster and a lift in productivity gains across the full set of tasks that constitute the SDLC. So where are we really going from here, right? So let's take a step back for a second and just look at how fast this industry has grown. So going all the way back to 2018, that's when Tabnine was still called Cadota. And we released the first ever AI-based code completion model for the Java IDE. Um, I don't even know if anyone uses Java IDE anymore. But from there in 2019, we saw LLMs emerge for the first time. Of course, most of us weren't, when I say us, most of engineers weren't paying attention to LLMs really in 2019. But what we were able to do at Tab9 is start expanding code completions off the back of that innovation to support more languages. Fast forward to 2020 and 2021, that's when ChatGPT really came on the scene. And that's really when everyone started to be aware about the amazing capabilities that AI can offer you. So we followed that up in 2022 by releasing AI chat directly in the IDE. And that was a real breakthrough then. And where we are now in 2024 is we're moving towards agentic AI. So what Tabnine's already delivered for you is AI agents for every single step of the SDLC. And what these agents do is help developers as they move across the software development lifecycle to ship better code faster. So we've built a full set of AI agents for the only AI code assistant on the market today that has a full set of AI agents. GitHub Copilot doesn't have it. Other competitive tools don't have these agents either. And today you can use our AI agents through the Tab9 chat and through other modalities of interaction that Chris will show you in the demo. But they're right in your IDE. They're in all your major IDEs. And they work like an AI pair programmer. So our agents assist you with things like research, generating code, documentation, testing, supporting you with code review, helping you with code maintenance, fixing errors and bugs. And, we've even got a set of AI agents that will execute and implement Jira issues for you with 2 button clicks. And really, you can use this rich set of agents in our platform today to autonomously complete complex tasks. And that's going to dramatically improve your team's productivity and let you timely deliver quality software. But that's not where this category is stopping. That's not where we're stopping. Hey, LinkedIn users, sorry guys, the stream is dropping. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. But hey, Chris, while I go through this presentation, why don't you just pop on over to the LinkedIn stream and check that out and make sure that's all going properly. So AI is evolving rapidly, right? So you're going to see these AI agents that we've built this year continue to evolve even more to autonomously execute more and more tasks over time, unlocking increased value for you and your business. And as you move along this journey with AI, we're really here to be your partner along the way. Now, a couple of weeks ago, you might have seen a video interview of Zuckerberg on the Joe Rogan podcast stating that the AI engineer is already here in 2025. And we don't really believe that that's true for the enterprise. So I disagree with Zuck on that, but I know why he said it. And what I do agree with him, though, is that this technology will have the potential to deliver what you and many others call an AI engineer, and which you really imagine as one. But I don't think it's happening tomorrow. We don't think it's happening this year. And forecasts on when it will happen from third-party experts range from as near as 5 years to multiple decades away. So the truth of the matter is that if anyone tells you that they can accurately predict when something like a fully autonomous AI engineer will emerge, that's a statement that I think you should really take with a grain of salt. So we've grounded ourselves by looking at what's actually happened and looking at where we actually are today. So let's take a look at where we actually are today. And that is transitioning from AI coding assistants to semi-autonomous human-in-the-loop AI agents for specific tasks and capabilities in the SDLC. And really, what's the difference between an AI code assistant and agentic AI, right? So an AI code assistant is really defined by code completions and then an AI chat in the IDE that you can talk to, asks for help, come up with ideas that would spit out boilerplate code from things like its knowledge on O'Reilly ebooks, its knowledge on the open source code and the mysterious Schrodinger's data set of code that AI has been trained on. But where we are today is right here on the curve, right? Moving into the AI agents era of software development. And AI engineer is pretty far off still. But in order to get to true agentic AI for software development for the enterprise, what the enterprise really needs is AI that can leverage deep organizational insights. And the reason for this is that an analysis by a number of independent researchers, it's been observed that in some teams, as the adoption of AI generated code rose, so did the number of rejected pull requests. And in some cases, that meant that there was a massive amount of rejection at the code review. And you might ask yourself, like, why would that be the case? AI clearly knows how to code and it knows all the programming languages. And the answer really lies in your engineering organization itself. So if you go and ask 10 different engineering managers the right answer to a specific engineering assignment, you'll get at least 10 different answers. And the problem is that all their answers are actually correct, but the only answer that matters to you, the only answer that's going to make it past the pull request, is the answer that matches that specific manager's expectations. And working with an LLM, it's really like hiring a software engineer off the street. They might know the O'Reilly textbook answer to a coding problem, but they don't know how your organization does things. And they're never going to know how your organization does things unless you have a AI software development platform that helps them contextualize and guides them with that information. So at best, a out-the-box LLM will be able to propose things like writing a new function where an existing function API or microservice already exists, and that'll increase tech debt because now you have duplication of efforts. At worst, LLMs on their own propose changes that can break your corporate policies or adversely affect your application. And combining the inherent knowledge and capabilities in an LLM with the right understanding of your team is what fixes that and what gives you agentic AI that is useful for enterprise applications. And all you have to do to get that is layer in the right level of context. And that can include local files, the code base of the project or your company, and your company's specific standards and patterns. And what we do at Tabnine is we've built that three-legged stool of AI performance, which is AI agents, the most advanced LLMs that you have access to and that we can give you access to power those, and then a deep and powerful context engine that essentially gives you an outcome that your AI starts to behave more like a senior engineer with years of experience in your company rather than a engineer off the street that knows the textbook answer to things, but doesn't actually know the right answer for your task at hand, for your project at hand, for your code base and application. But in order to build towards this future of agentic AI, there's two things that broadly need to occur. So for us to move from a AI code assistant to a autonomous AI agent platform is that the roadblock that's in place there is trust, right? So you need to have AI that you can trust. And that's built on two things, understanding and control. So the reason you're able to trust the work done by your engineering teams today is because you trust their judgment through the chain of command. However, when it comes to AI systems, it's a bit of a black box, right? As an end user, you don't really understand how they're thinking about things. You don't understand how they're judging them. So how can you trust the work done by fully autonomous AI agents? In order for you to trust that, you need powerful tools that help you control what the AI does and that establish trust in the generated code artifacts. And there's two pillars here that we can deliver for you that you should think about. The first is that the AI you select must have a comprehensive understanding of your company knowledge and corporate standards. And in order for these autonomous AI agents to be successful, they're going to have unfettered access to every important IT system. And that includes a lot of different context sources, which I'll share with you as we get into our personalization slides. And the second pillar that you need here is absolute control over the AI's behavior and decisions so that the work the AI agents are doing is clearly understood and it clearly meets your expectations. So you're going to want the ability to clearly define and communicate boundaries or guardrails that the AI should work within. Those should be configured to be applied globally, as well as specifically for components of your software and for specific tasks. So think of it like a permission model for the AI to generate code. And once you have that, then you can apply that to code generation AI agents that will strictly adhere to these guidelines and ask for additional permissions as needed. And we'll layer on an additional set of verification AI agents that do an extensive macro level inspection of AI generated and human generated code that will tell the reviewer everything they need to know about the security, the stability, the maintainability, the performance of the code. And data inflows and outflows in this are super interesting, which is what we'll share with you in subsequent slides. And really, Tabnine is uniquely positioned today to be the company that will solve both of these pillars of enterprise-grade AI needs for agentic AI for software development. So it's a heck of an exciting time to be a software engineer, right? But it's also really challenging for many engineering teams today because many of you have a mandate to adopt AI to increase efficiency, but you also have to adhere to security policies. You have legal to contend with. And with all that you need to balance, you at the same time have to find a tool that actually works well from a company that has a track record and history of delivering innovative capabilities at this space that are high quality. And at the same time, the LLM landscape is just something that's continuing to shift around your feet. So what I'd like to offer you the next couple of slides is some perspective. And that perspective will help you shape and understand how, as you undertake this journey from the AI code assistant to using autonomous AI agents, Tabnine is really going to be your perfect partner along the way. And listen, I know you guys all came here to see the demo, so just bear with me for another 15 or 13 minutes and I'll get through this and we'll get over to the meat and potatoes of today's presentation from Chris. So now I'm going to guide you through how we help you address the challenges that you may be facing in adoption of AI and really give you a customized path to adoption and use of AI with our platform at your company. So to get to this next step of agentic AI, there are some things that need to be solved. There's some problems with AI today, right? And the primary issue has to do with context. And that is why personalization is so important to AI for software development tasks. So no matter how powerful an LLM becomes, it's never going to be sufficiently aware by itself of your existing code base and coding standards. So they need context for being connected into your IDE, your code bases, your organizational standards and rules, and more of your tech stack. And you need AI agents that are effective, and you need to have control over them so that once you get autonomous AI agents, they don't accidentally throw into that infinite loop, which if you've noticed from another company that recently raised their pricing significantly and made pricing variable, they did not solve that challenge effectively. And I certainly wouldn't want to foot the bill with usage-based pricing on a company that has agents that throw infinite loops on accident. And the other thing that you need is a way to navigate trade-offs between privacy, performance, and protection. So answering questions like, how do I deploy this safely? How do I get personalization? And through giving the AI access to all my IT systems without exposing all of my IP to a third party. How do you do this efficiently? And then finally, as you're adopting an AI platform for software development, how do you future-proof it? So we'll start with the easiest one, right? Convincing your legal team that you can use these tools without incurring liability risk. After that, we'll look at how to personalize AI results and why it's really important that you do that. Then we'll look at how to make sure you're generating more code, but not more tech debt with your use of AI. And of course, since you're all buzzing about DeepSeek like everyone else is, we'll look at how to make sure your AI software development platform is flexible so that you can access ongoing innovations in LLM technology. And the last thing I'll close with is overcoming the last roadblock, which is deploying and ensuring privacy for your entire organization's adoption of AI for software development. So let's start by examining the first issue, right? Protecting your organization from the risk of copyright infringement. So historically, the IP liability from copyrighted code present in LLM training data has been akin to Schrodinger's cat. It has IP liable code in it, and it also doesn't. But organizations that are using AI already and reaping the rewards probably don't want to look inside the box to see how the cat's doing. And whether you want to or not, it's time to look inside. And we did, and the folks at Carnegie Mellon University did last year in August. And what they found is the cat is mostly free of IP liabilities. And this is really, really important data to share with your CIO if they're concerned about this risk. As a 2025 RBC CIO survey found that 90% of CIOs are responding that they're adopting AI into their software dev processes by the end of 2025. And the largest concern from 38% of them was copyright infringement. So we wanted to share expertise in this area. So we've worked with many organizations that have this concern, and we've helped engineering teams navigate highly restrictive AI policies and even provided teams that in many cases had legal policies banning LLMs outright with a compliant pathway to adoption. So the first thing to ground yourself on is this study from Carnegie Mellon, a first look at license compliance capability of LLMs in code generation. And what they did in this study is they built a benchmark called LICO eval. And what that benchmark did is it checked the output of multiple LLMs. You can see a lot of them on the screen there. And they measured the striking similarity score of the code against copyrighted code. And what they found was that across the full set of LLMs they studied, their propensity to generate license protected code had a frequency of 0.88% to 2.01%. So the amount of times that these LLMs generate code that may cause copyright violations is really, really low. And what this data can tell you is that if you're using a third-party model from a reputable provider, the risk of IP liability is quite low. The second thing this study looked at was how good are these LLMs at attributing licenses accurately? So that ranges. GPT-4o was found to attribute licenses with an accuracy score of 0.74. Qwen 2 had a score of 0.95, so that was the best one in this study. And DeepSeek Coder V2 actually failed to attribute licenses entirely. Also important to note that these are accuracy scores out of 1, but they're not percentages, so they shouldn't be interpreted as such. And if you want access to this study, just ping me in the chat, and I'll drop a link to it. I'm also publishing a blog post later this week that breaks this down in more detail. So here's how we help you with that, right? So we offer the most comprehensive approach to copyright and IP compliance in the category. And we do this in 3 ways. So if you have a LLM approved, third-party LLM approved that's highly performant that you're using already in your infrastructure, or you'd like to adopt one, well, we can protect you from IP liability risk through our provenance and attribution feature. And the way that works is with that turned on, Tabnine will check all generated code from the LLM inside your IDE and check it against publicly visible code. It'll flag matches, and it will reference the source and license of the code in cases where there is a striking similarity of match. And that'll really make it easy for you to decide if this code meets your specific policies for license compliance. And the other control layer we're putting on top of that is called censorship. So rather than this decision being something that you leave to your individual developers, what you're going to be able to do as a Tabnine enterprise admin is govern and set your license compliance rules globally for your organization. So that takes the risk entirely out of the picture, right? Now, let's say that this isn't good enough for your team and for your legal. And they're really not going to let you adopt any LLM, even though the risk is very low and you have this additional safeguard. So if that's the case, then we can offer you Tabnine Protected 2. And that's a completely IP safe LLM that's really designed for our most sensitive customers. And the unique thing about this LLM is that it was purpose built for software development, but more importantly, it was trained exclusively on permissively licensed code. And this really meets the requirements of teams with the highest standards for IP compliance, which is common in some software companies and in sensitive industries. However, you do incur a trade-off here with using Tabnine Protected 2. And the reason for that is it's a really small model in comparison to the third-party LLMs that are out on the market today, because it was only trained on permissively licensed code, and there's not a lot of that code out there. But even if you do end up having to go down that route, the agentic enhancements and the personalization enhancements that we do on top of it, along with the approaches to prompting and use of our custom commands feature, our various other features, will really still let you get great performance out of the AI. And of course, capping it all off, we offer contractual protection through indemnification for our enterprise customers. So now you understand how to navigate the legal landscape here. Let's look at why it's important to personalize the output of AI generation to fit your organization's context. And this is one of our 3 Ps that make Tabnine unique, right? We're private, personalized, and protected. But the personalization pillar should really be called performance, because what you get out of personalized AI is more performant AI through better responses. And there's a real need for this in the market. So back in about June of 2024, George Mason University did a benchmark study on ChatGPT, Codium, and GitHub Copilot to uncover their success rates with generating code for hard enterprise-grade challenges. And what the study found was that Codium struggled significantly with hard problems across all categories, with an overall success rate as low as 13% for hard problems. And that trend was particularly evident in categories like arrays and sorting, where Codium's performance on hard problems was notably weaker than both ChatGPT and Copilot. And then, of course, on debugging use cases, ChatGPT demonstrated the best performance overall with a success rate of 42.5%, followed by GitHub Copilot at 40%. Codium still struggling significantly, being able to correct only about 20% of its errors and hard problems. So the performance that you'll get out of these out-the-box tools, these more generic AI code assistants, it varies widely by task. And as you can see from the error distribution by AI tools, as the difficulty level gets higher and higher, generic AI code assistants struggle more and more and have more errors. The reason for that is they do not have the same degree of personalization that we can offer you today. So we do 4 levels of personalization to Tabnine, and the personalization is progressive. This really optimizes how Tabnine's platform works for your team. And what this personalization does is it makes sure that Tabnine generates recommendations that are relevant to your apps and your approach and fit your existing patterns and standards. So the 4 ways we do this starts with context awareness in the IDE. That makes Tabnine aware of any code open in the IDE around a given project. And it also looks at another 15 data points. That includes things like your chat history, imported packages, and libraries, as well as your cursor and various other parts of your code, which Chris will show you during the demo. The next level we layer on is connection to your code and knowledge bases. So you can connect Tabnine to your other software development tools. That includes things like your code repositories, and systems like Jira that lets the AI leverage your existing work to deliver better recommendations. And the repositories that we support today for connecting into are any Git-based repo. So GitHub, GitLab, and Atlassian Bitbucket as of today. Also important to note is that you have an unlimited amount of repositories that you can connect. So connect as many as you'd like. And you can also select and guide the context for the AI agents directly in your IDE by calling out specific repositories to personalize the recommendations even further. The third way we personalize is coaching based on your standards. So this is really, really useful to the mature and disciplined engineering teams that are using Tabnine today. And what this does is it takes the organizational knowledge present in your most expert engineers in the terms of rules and provides Tabnine with expert guidance. And these rules are applied both in recommendations and in code review. And this is incredibly powerful because it not just supports developers, but also adds an exhaustive analysis of code directly in the pull request. And that helps increase your code quality and slash the time spent in code review. Finally, the last thing that we offer today already is customization and fine tuning of the underlying models as needed. And this is really important to our customers that work in languages that LLMs typically struggle with, which is a common problem they'll encounter if you're writing code in a language where there isn't a lot of public training data. So think about things like System Verilog, VHDL, hardware engineering code, stuff in financial services industries, things of that nature. And what we can offer you here today is building on our existing models by incorporating your code as additional training data and giving you a fully customized and fully private to you fine-tuned version of Tabnine's protected model for code completions that'll give you a code completions model that's completely unique to your organization and achieve the maximum and personalization of your AI code assistant.
So we've actually have two questions here in chat. I think the first one being around GPT and Pilot and Copilots. Comparatively, how do they stack up? Because I think in that graphic that we showed a few back, it shows them all together. Maybe we can go back to that.
Yeah. So how does GPT/Copilot stack up? Fantastic question here, Pratik. So there's many ways we're different from Copilot. So first is we have a full set of AI agents for every step of the SDLC. They don't have those. Second is we have a deeper set of connection into your tooling than they do. So GitHub Copilot restricts you in terms of code-based connections to GitHub repositories exclusively. You can connect GitHub repositories, of course, with Tabnine, but you can also connect Bitbucket and GitLab repositories. And then, of course, our context engine is more sophisticated. Our testing agent is absolutely fantastic, which Chris will show you. And then we do more to personalize as well. So you can do things like have Tabnine respond in a different language other than English, which is really important to our customers because they have globally distributed engineering teams in a diverse set of countries. And then, of course, our privacy is a key differentiator as well. You can deploy Tabnine fully air-gapped on premise if you like. You can deploy a VPC, and we also offer SaaS deployments, which GitHub Copilot does as well. The other way we're different is our model flexibility. So you can use Tabnine with any third-party LLM, and you can not only do this in SaaS, but you can do this in VPC and on a on-prem installation as well. And basically what that lets you do is it takes your entire AI software development platform and you can place it on-prem on your own environment and infrastructure and run it as a fully self-contained unit. Is an enterprise account needed to use the connection for personalization? Yes, you do need a Tabnine enterprise account to do that. That's not a capability we offer on our dev tier, Julian. If you're interested in testing it out, just come to our website. You'll see a chat icon pop up on the bottom right. It's a member of our team there. You can book a time with them and they will help guide you through setting up a evaluation of Tabnine Enterprise for your team. We'll establish success criteria, help you understand how to measure the impact of using Tabnine, and then we'll guide you through deploying Tabnine through your preferred modality and work with you and train your teams along the way for like a 30 or 60-day evaluation period to ensure you get to try everything out that we have to offer and to ensure that we train your teams on how to make the most effective use of all of our platform's capabilities and specific use cases that are really critical to you and your business and the reason why you're looking at evaluating AI. So, question from Jim. You mentioned code reviews. You have issues with generated code and code reviews. Will you fix this? Yeah, Jim. So, great question there. So, the way the code review agent works today, right, is it reads the code in the pull request, right? But as you'll see shortly from us, that enforcement of your rules is going to shift left directly into the IDE. So you mentioned that you're having a problem with tabs and indentation. That's something that you can set as a rule in your code review and have the AI agent implement and validate and fix that for you as it's generating code as we shift the code review capabilities in our coaching pillar directly into the IDE. All right, let's continue onwards. Fantastic questions. So transitioning to beyond AI code generation to code validation, right? And I think Pratik, this is a great question here. So here's a good study on the security weaknesses of Copilot generated code in GitHub projects, which was done in December of 2024. And what this really looked at was the presence of security weaknesses through the MITRE CWE classification. And it identified vulnerabilities that are documented in that. And that included things like non-standard coding patterns or coding patterns that lead to security defects. And the academic research here has shown that without question, LLMs and Copilot specifically can produce unsecured code. And it also showed the frequency and severity of these issues, right? So they found that of 773 snippets generated, they had a high likelihood of security weaknesses that spanned about 43 different common weakness enumeration categories, including significant ones like cross-site scripting. And the frequency of snippets with a single security vulnerability was an average of 27%. And the frequency of snippets containing more than one security weakness was 14%. So you might have seen over the weekend some recent news about a prompt injection hack that occurred with DeepSeek. That was partially due to exploiting cross-site scripting, which is a serious vulnerability that leads to unauthorized code execution in a user's browser by a malicious actor. And another study in 2022 called "Do Users Write More Insecure Code with AI Assistance?" Tested Copilot against 89 cybersecurity scenarios, and it discovered that 40% of the suggestions from it contained security-related bugs as per the CWE classification from MITRE. My problem is that the available Node.js code that trains LLMs to respond in pre-ES6 level. Is there a way to limit the response to modern ES responses? Spot on, awesome question, David, and great problem to raise there. That's specifically the intent behind our code review agent. So I think you'll really enjoy the portion of the demo where Chris shows you the various rule categories that you could implement. And I believe this one would fall into the performance category. So the rule sets that you can create with our code review agent can also be classified by specific languages and libraries. So you could create a specific rule set for Node.js code to respond in your preferred modern ES response format instead of a pre-ES6 level. And that's something we can support for you with our code review capability.
And then one quick other point, David, for in the realm of generation, right? You can also use a new functionality in Tabnine called custom chat behaviors, right? So you can specify how the Tabnine AI chat's got to respond prior to you ever asking any questions, right? You set that high level expectations. So theoretically, you can specify that, I only want to receive suggestions for Node.js code after ES6, in which when you do ask questions or you go into the chat, it will only give you those suggestions post ES6 because it has that understanding, that context, thus making it higher performant.
Yeah, and the other way you can help with that, David, is they're using our local and global context, right? So if you have a existing Node.js code file that you're working on that has post ES6 level code in it, have that open, and Tabnine is going to intake that context and use that to guide its responses as well. Or you can connect it and point it into a repository that has those types of examples and use that to weight the retrieval augmented generation we do.
Funny enough, one question, three different ways of solving it. You can pick whichever one best fits your plan of attack, right? Which is, I think, funny. Just to what Amaya said earlier, you ask a question to 10 engineers, they're going to give you 10, 11 different answers, and they're all not wrong, right? Just depending on what you want to do. I think that's another really big strength with Tabnine is that freedom and flexibility to code how you want to code, to generate how you want to generate, to review how you want to review.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, David, and for everyone watching, like as you adopt Tabnine and evaluate Tabnine, what our customer success team is really fantastic at is working with you and your engineers to train them on how to use all of our capabilities most effectively for your specific needs. So we'll teach you how to get the best response possible out of our AI for software development platform for specific cases, just like the one you just raised. All right, so here is our code review agent, right? Now let's review code based on your team's standards. And you can codify your institutional knowledge here. So as you're seeing here, it offers predefined rules for various languages, libraries that are from industry experts. Then as you go into the PR itself, the agent reviews the code against your rules, flags deviations, and offers suggestions to fix the issues. And as we get into the demo here, Chris will show you the rules UI and interface, and we'll talk more about how to train the agent on these rules. There's two ways to do it. The first is, as you saw at the beginning of this GIF, giving us a plain language document. The second way to do it is to have us look at one of your best repositories and your PRs, and we'll extract a rule set from those for you and build it out and enhance it. So this is a absolutely fantastic capability from Tabnine today. So again, LLMs are super important for getting high performance, right? So it's not all bad news with LLMs. You just need to have some controls and personalization layered on top of them, which is what we do for you. But really, as this space continues to evolve, and as we've seen with the release of DeepSeek, the war for dominance in the LLM category is far from being over. And that's why it's really important that you select a AI platform that gives you complete model flexibility. And that's what we can offer you today as well. So we have deep expertise in leveraging and optimizing LLMs for software development tasks, and we make a variety of them available to our customers. And that flexibility gives you two key benefits. So the first is that you can trust you're always going to have access to the latest and greatest models. And we also help millions of developers deploy these LLMs, and we conduct a lot of testing inside of our lab environments on these LLMs, looking at things like performance, quality, as well as privacy and security. So we can provide guidance to you on which LLMs are best performing for which use cases and which LLMs suit your organization's needs the most, even taking factors into account, such as your availability of hardware to run the LLMs if you wanted to go with an on-premise deployment. And you also get full control over not just the models in use, but as well as how you connect to them. So if you already have a private endpoint, for example, with a leading model provider, we can support that and connect that into your instance of Tabnine. If you're deploying your own open source model on a platform like Bedrock or in your own infrastructure, we can support that as well in your deployment. And if you want to run something like Llama or Quen or a different open source model directly in your environment that's air gapped along with Tabnine, we can do that too. And of course, I should mention as well that as a Tabnine Enterprise customer, you get administrative control over what LLMs you make available to your organization. So with Tabnine, you're always in complete control of your AI infrastructure. And really, that's a good transition into the last portion of my slides here. So thanks for bearing with me. With Tabnine, you can create a fully self-contained AI system. So you get total control over privacy. And first and foremost, that means you control how you deploy and how you want to deploy with Tabnine. So if you want to do SaaS, that's the most convenient option. We also offer single tenant SaaS here as well if desired. And when you're using our SaaS deployment, you have the added guarantee of a zero data retention policy. So your code is never stored, it's never shared with third parties, and it's never used to train our models. And of course, if you're using Tabnine Enterprise SaaS along with a third-party LLM, we recommend going with Claude 3.5. And the reason for that is we have an agreement with them to not train or retain on data from our customers with our private endpoint into Claude 3.5. So that's a great option for getting the most powerful performance out of maximizing the three-legged stool of AI performance, LLMs, plus Tabnine's agents and personalization, while also having total data privacy and having a really easy path to deployment. Now, the other options are on premises, and that lets you control the environment. We also give the option of being fully air gapped and have many customers in aerospace, defense, government, financial services, and semiconductor manufacturing that have opted for that option. And we also give you the option of running it as a virtual private cloud, which gives you a balance of the two. And along the way, we have partnerships with all of the major cloud providers, as well as with companies like Dell and Broadcom. And that makes it really, really easy for you to fit Tabnine into your existing environment. So now you have a good understanding of what's happening in the category, the way Tabnine's capabilities put you in the best position possible to leverage these innovations today and for years to come, and how we address all the shortcomings that are present in alternative and generic AI code assistance tools. So let's just cap this all together, right? So Tabnine's the AI software development platform that's tailored to you. We're personalized, private, and protected. We've pioneered AI-enabled software development. We're the originators of the category, and we've also led the market in delivering innovative capabilities and continue to do so. We support more than 1 million developers across thousands of teams, and we have customers in highly regulated and privacy-conscious industries, and that makes Tabnine one of the most widely used AI applications in the world. And we really go beyond the limitations of generic AI code assistance and have truly built an AI software development platform that's tailored to you and your team. So again, Tabnine's personalized. That gives you an optimized experience for each development team. We have the most contextually aware AI agents for software development on the market. We integrate with the widest variety of IT systems to gain understanding and take action. And as you learn with our code review, we are the only AI system today that learns and applies your unique approach and policies to code generation and validation. Privacy, you already have a good sense of, and protection, I covered earlier. So from all three angles, you're covered and we can support your adoption. Also important to note that it's not just us saying great things about ourselves. We've also been honored and recognized by leading analyst firms. And the most important one here is that Tabnine's been recognized by Gartner in the critical capabilities for AI code assistance. Happy to share this report with you later as well. And they evaluated us against all 12 other major providers in this space. And we were ranked first for 3 use cases and ranked second, a close second, mind you, for 2 other use cases. And this really reinforces our position as a leader in this space. And furthermore, we were also featured as a luminary in Everest Group's Innovation Watch Assessment for generative AI applications and software development, and recognized by OMDIA in their market radar for AI-assisted software development. So that's enough of me talking your ear off, and enough slides for me. Let's transition off into the demo, and let's look at what you can do with Tabnine today and see it in action. So take it away, Chris.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Now there was one question I wanted to tackle before we get in there, and that is, the new Tab 9 capabilities to Cursor and Windsurf, which are implementing AI agents, and what are the main differences. And I'll take a first pass at this, and then Amaya, um, I'll let you jump in. I think the biggest thing, and not to harp on what we've been, not to beat a dead horse, which is a terrible idiom, but I think the big key takeaway is that a lot of competitors focus on, and you don't know it, but it's generic code generation, right? And Tab 9 has built this comprehensive, personalized AI development platform. And the big key is that it's unique to each organization's needs and standards. Out of the box, it might not seem as flashy as, you see like a new IDE that Cursor or Codium's launching, right? But then you talk about switching your developers to adopt something like that. It's hard, very, very, very hard. A big win, I think, for Tab 9 is that freedom and flexibility, that we're not making people switch their or change their ways. It seamlessly goes into the regular flow that each team is used to, regardless of their unique wants, needs, standards, guidelines. It ends up being that Cinderella slipper for each. I think the more specifically, I think Tab 9's we've geared ourselves to be much more of an enterprise grade uh, platform, right? So code validation against company standards, integrating with the widest variety of development tools and workflows, having really advanced admin controls for user policy and management. And then, of course, with enterprise grade development platforms, you need enterprise grade security and privacy features, which is, I think, where we're also very, very, very strong. More so than folks like Cursor or like Codium. I think they're much more geared towards a smaller shop, where we're able to handle and manage those much larger enterprises.
Yeah, so specifically with Cursor, you can't deploy them on-prem or VPC, right? So if that's a requirement for your organization, that's a no-go for you on Cursor right off the bat. And then again, like, I don't know about you, Alexander, but most of our customers, the engineers there, they have their IDs that they want, that they use already, and they have little to no desire to switch off of them. So that's that. And that's the stopping point there for most of them. Finally, with Windsurf, I don't know if you've taken a look at their pricing, but it is variable pricing and usage-based pricing. And they had some interesting things happening in their Discord channel about 2 months ago that I recommend you go and examine. But really, it's the 3 Ps and our 4 Cs, right? Privacy, protection, personalization, and context, code-based connection to non-code sources of information, coaching and customization that we excel at. Question from Jan Kirchner: do you support new reasoning models like O1, DeepSeek, etc.? So our labs team is evaluating DeepSeek currently today. I can tell you that the performance on DeepSeek from benchmarks alone is really, really exciting. It looks like it's highly performant. However, what we don't like about DeepSeek today is the privacy angle of it. And that's something that's super important to our customers. And the other question you should really ask yourself is, given where that model is coming from, do you really trust giving that model access to your IT systems and then subsequently using it to run agentic workflows? And as we start to develop and shift more and more into autonomous AI agents to take action on your code on your behalf. And that's a determination you're going to have to make on your own. But what I can tell you is that we support any LLM in an on-premise deployment. So if you have it in your infrastructure and you've signed on with us as a Tabnine Enterprise customer, we will evaluate whatever LLM you have and then connect that into Tabnine to help you power and utilize it. So it's totally model agnostic from a platform perspective. But as of whether we're going to offer Cursor, offer O1 or DeepSeek or these other models through the Tabnine Dev plan, that remains to be seen. But you'll see some news from us there. David Lovett, please have your sales contact me on LinkedIn messaging. I will certainly tell them to do that, David, and they will be more than happy to hear that someone has asked us to reach out to them off the basis of this Tabnine Office Hours. All right. Keep the questions coming, guys. This is fantastic. Chris, let's hand it off to you and get into the demo.
Cool.
I'm going to drop off the screen for a bit.
All righty. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So let me pull this up here. All right. So if we have any networking or Wi-Fi issues, please let me know in the comments. But again, we're hardwired in this week, so I think we should be good. So let's start from the top here. Let's go over the Tabnine UI first that folks will interact with each of the agents along the way. We'll talk about the different form factors where you'll see Tabnine in the IDE, and then we'll go through each phase of the SDLC, right? Starting with plan, working through creating, and so on and so forth, ending up with code review, and then we'll go through the admin panel. So for starters, upload you initialize your IDE. I'm using VS Code, but again, we support Visual Studio, Vim, the entire JetBrains family. So wherever you're comfortable. But again, I'm comfortable in VS Code. You'll see Tabnine once you have it installed. It's going to be here on the left-hand toolbar. When you do click it, this is the Tabnine AI chat. This is the first thing that you'll see. So starting here at the bottom, you'll see a sort of prompt query bar that you can use everyday conversational natural language to type in prompts, queries. You can also, you'll have sort of different areas of context, right? You can add code snippets. This is where you'll be able to do custom commands. You can add images as context and even use our integration or implementation and validation agents from Jira. You can initialize them from here. Additionally, this is where you toggle workspace indexing, right? So you can, if you can't read, I'll read it to you, or if it's too small, not that if you can't read. Tab9 chat will consider your project, current file packages as context for chat responses, right? So this is how you're able to toggle this on and off. You'll also notice that we do not have our agents anymore sitting here at the top. They are all going to be initialized from this / command here in this drop-down list. At the top, you'll see our switchable models modal. So this is where you're able to see the different LLMs that are available to your specific organization via your admin. For now, these are the 3 that I like, but that's okay, or the 4 that I like. I am going to stick with Claude 3.5 Sonnet. That's my LLM of choice. So next to chat, you're going to see a small beaker, and that's the test agent. The test agent is where you can generate comprehensive test plans for your code, either from scratch, or you can feed in old test files and check coverage or test coverage and validation that you do have, everything that you need. Next to this test agent, you'll see the settings icon. Now, this is where you can integrate with Jira. I am already connected, but it is as simple as 2 clicks in about 30 seconds. If you've ever connected anything to an app before in the past, it's the same flow you're used to. A new feature for us now is response length, right? So you can generate, you can specify if you want Tab9 to act more in a comprehensive manner, right? Maybe giving more details, examples, explanations, or if you don't want that, let's say you're more of a senior dev or you're just looking for the nuts and bolts, or the basics. You'll go with concise, and that's going to really shorten down the response length, as well as just give you suggestions. You can also define custom behaviors. Now, it's an interesting feature because I think that you talk about limitations. Custom behaviors, custom commands, all of these are sort of limited by your imagination and yeah, I mean, I would really just say it's limited by your imagination, right? In the sense that you can determine how, if there's specific prompts that you find yourself using over and over again, you can get creative. Uh, Specifically with defining custom commands, we talked about this earlier. Let's say that you want to only show ES6 post suggestions. That's where you're able to specify this. Additionally, let's say you want to respond in German, Spanish. They're all able, this is where you can provide those instructions preemptively before Tabnine chat even responding to you. So it will respond, let's say, in German as a systems architect that's focusing on scalability. And this running all commands in sequence I'll get to later, but it's pretty cool. Next to that, you'll just see one last bit here is you can go back and see chat history as well as create new chats. So a lot of functionality here within this top bar. Next area that you'll find Tabnine is as you're typing within your code, you'll see code completion. So anything in gray here, not this dropdown, but anything that's being populated in gray text is Tabnine's code completions. So as you're typing in the IDE, Tabnine's automatically will generate contextually relevant code recommendations. So it's automatically going to recognize the intent. So if you're writing a test, it'll auto-complete the test. If you're writing documentation, comments, code, so on and so forth, it'll auto-complete those. The next piece that you'll see separate from code completions, as at the top of each of these blocks of code, you'll see things like edit, explain, fix, test, document, sort of dependent on the block of code's functionality. And what that is the Tabnine code lens. So as you're typing, let's say you don't want to go over to chat, it's sort of, we're progressing more and more into the developer flow, right? So these code lens accessible from the top of each block, and it's specific to each block, right? That's why you'll see it repeated as you go through bigger projects or files that have, lots, maybe hundreds of lines of code. You'll see this code lens quite often. And that's, again, because it's specific to that specific block of code. Now, the last bit here I want to show you is our custom commands, or a quick commands drop down. So if you're on a Mac, Command I, and I do know that is sometimes interfering with other IDEs if they have key bindings there already. For example, like JetBrains, I believe you can remap key bindings on there, so that shouldn't be an issue. But Command I populates this drop-down menu here. Now, what you can do is, again, use natural language to specify how you want to customize this text or ask prompts or queries around this block of text. Additionally, though, you can access your quick commands. So fix, document, explain, and code explore, as well as change models and edit the actual the window that you're trying to customize, have queries around, dive deeper on. So for example, this block, it goes from 12 to 61, but let's say you wanted to include the first 12 lines, you could specify that there. So let's go through each usual cycle for a software developer, right? Going through each phase of the SDLC. Let me get rid of this. Cool. Okay. So first stage, we're going to start with plan. I think it's really, really important as a developer to have a really good understanding of the project, what you're doing, how it works, right? How are you supposed to work if you don't know what you're working on? So what we're going to do is use the Code Explore agent. And what that will do, and Code Explore agent is a built-in quick action in Tabnine, right? That users can invoke when starting a new conversation or a empty state or slate by using that / Code Explore in this prompt window. And what it'll do is Tabnine will return a high-level summary of, let's see here, I might actually be on, yeah, there we go, we're on comprehensive. So what it's going to do is return a high-level summary of projects, key elements, dependencies, overall structure, and then it's going to generate additional documentation here, or not documentation, additional questions, excuse me, that are follow-ups about this summary, allowing developers to dive further into relevant information for their current task, right? So using Tabnine chat, users can onboard into a new project much faster while reducing that load the load on their experienced colleagues who will spend less time helping these new teammates on board and might ultimately resent having to do that in general, right? So this is a really good way to make people self-sufficient, independent, and well-informed. So okay, we have an idea of what we're doing here. It's a Next.js application. Going by the name, it's a fraud detection dashboard. We can head over here and see, okay, this is what we're dealing with. This is the application. So we know it's in each file. We know what we're building here. Let's go on to the next phase of the SDLC, which is going to be create. And Maya, I know I am talking fast, so if there is any questions in the chat, please feel free to just stop me.
Yeah, we do actually.
Perfect.
So are you planning on supporting other platforms like Notion.ai to provide context or other use case related content? Notion.ai is not on our release roadmap for the near term. Currently, we support Jira, and that'll be followed by Confluence. However, if you're interested in that, reach out to us, and we can have a discussion about when and if that's something that we will support in the near term. Also, option workspace. This version isn't released yet. So that sounds like you are a Tabnine user or customer here already. Since you're anonymous there, I'm not exactly sure what company you're with, but if you're a Tabnine Enterprise customer, reach out to your CSM and they'll be able to guide you through when that capability will be available in your version of Tabnine. If you're a free or dev user, we're showing the Tabnine Enterprise product every week here on Office Hours. So you're going to see capabilities that are only available to our enterprise customers during this. Can you turn off the Tabnine completions? You can't turn off the Tabnine inline code completions. You can turn off the chat suggested completions. You're a dev user. Okay. Yeah. That capability, as far as I know, is that's rolling out to our enterprise customers. I'm not sure if it's going to be something that's available in dev. Also because the dev tier of our product doesn't support code-based connection. So, oh, the workspace option, local context should be available in dev. So
that should
you
be
should have that already. Update your Tabnine plugin.
cool.
Already.
All right, let's get back to the demo. All right, so we know it's in here. We know how it works. Let's go on to creating. So what we're going to do is, let me back up here. We're going to start with Jira, right? So we briefly talked earlier in this session about our Jira agents, right? And there's two. We have our implementation agent and our validation agent. Now we've already connected Tabnine to Jira, but again, 2 clicks, 30 seconds. If you've integrated something before, same flow you're used to. So we'll head over to my board here. Now, this is just a sample sort of dummy board that we use for demos, but it's important to note that if I take my filter out of here, 58 tickets to do, 7 for dev in progress, evaluation, so on and so forth. 58, 7, 2, 2, a lot of tickets. 14 for just me. Now, when you have this integration and you initialize Jira here, you'll see that for starters, only going to show tickets that are assigned to me as an individual in Jira, not going to see all of my other team members' tickets. So don't worry about having a flooded drop down here. It's going to be just what's specific to you. And you're not going to have to go back into Jira to go check on your tickets and see what you have to do and what's next. The next piece is that it's only going to show tickets that have been updated within the last 30 days. Outside of that, it will not populate in this drop down. So it's only going to take in things that are relevant, that have been added in the last month. So we're going to use, let's go to brand redesign here. And we are going to say, implement this ticket. So what Tabnine is doing now, it's read the ticket, it's read the description, acceptance criteria, and it is seeing that we're going to update the fraud detection dashboard. Perfect. Sidebar component. Let's do that. So sure, apply to similar. Awesome. Okay, so what we can do here is go into chat and you'll see apply. All you have to do is click apply. You can see a diff here. So unlike other folks in the space, you are not blindly just applying changes to your code. It's nice to have the ability to quickly add them in there, but let's still keep the human in the loop, right? You want to be able to review and see those changes. So we'll click accept. Let's go over to this other nav bar here, the top nav bar, apply. While that is taking its sweet time, let me just do a quick little. Everything can't be perfect all the time. Let's go in here. Well, I might be having some issues because I switch versioning between beta and alpha back and forth like I'm changing clothes, but let me we'll just stop this for now. Let me go into here and chat history. Okay. So let me just start by clearing that and we'll, oh, perfect. Accept. All right. Now what we can do, excuse that small hiccup, is we can go over to the brand design. We can say, let's validate this ticket, right? So we've implemented something from Jira. Now we want to validate to make sure that our implementation is correct. Awesome. So the main color change is requested and the acceptance criteria 1 and 2 have been implemented correctly. The contrast requirement 3 appears to be met, but should be verified. And points 4 and 5 need further verification. Awesome, right? So I'm seeing that, okay, my colors have been changed, but part of my acceptance criteria was ensure proper contrast, verify that they're consistently across all of the pages, and test those changes, right? So that's something I can do on my own end, but it's awesome to know that it's not just blindly saying, yeah, thumbs up, this is good to go. It is correct, but it's also saying, hey, you need to do some further validation to make sure that this is going to meet that acceptance criteria. So, okay, we've added new code in here, but I also see that, you know, there's some errors here in my application. So one of the things you can do with Tabnine is, let's say that huge app, much larger than this. Let's say that this was a lot bigger. And you didn't have time to go. That file was a lot bigger. You didn't have time to go searching for a needle in the haystack, right? So you can ask Tabnine and say, so let's try and find these errors. So I see there are issues with my at layout, and you can use at signs here to bring in more context within individual prompts, right? So not just referencing, oh, the layout file within text, but let's actually specifically call that specific file out, right? So we'll say issues with my layout. What are they? And how do I fix them? It's probably going to be something silly, but there we go. Typos and variable functionations. Boom. Better contrast. Awesome. Okay, so we'll go over here. Constant and export. There we go. Or, you could just go in here. Let's say I didn't want to do that. I could say fix this code. Boom. Back to no red. That's what we like to see. Okay. So added new functionality. Fixed broken functionality. Now we need to test that this application is actually working the way that we want it to. So what you can do now is we'll go over to our test agent, right? Now Tabnine's testing agent is used to generate comprehensive testing plans. And you can access it three ways. Code lens here, so you can test specific blocks of code. You can go up to the AI chat window here and initialize the testing agent through this beaker, as well as use the custom commands or the quick commands within the prompt bar within a basic chat conversation, right? So you can generate tests for this specific code. But for the sake of this demo today, we're going to be hanging out in here in this testing agent. So let me just double check here. Do I have perfect? Nothing there. So let's select this code. We'll do perfect. Now, if you do have a test file, you can browse for it and find it here. If you don't have a test file, you'll just click this button here. Now, I know that, let's see here. App layout. Well, for the sake of this, let me just source app. Okay. Let's go source app test. Ooh. So what it's going to be doing is the test agent's generating this comprehensive test plan with detailed test cases for functions, methods, so on and so forth. And it will automatically generate test cases covering a wide variety of scenarios, right? And we can see what those are here in these previews, right? So what you can do is you can go in and pick and choose the ones that you see best fit for what you want to do, apply, add them in. Now let's say that you want to modify the tests. You want to change a portion of how they're texting, right? You can go into the bottom here after you've clicked generate, and then you can specifically go in and modify individual tests, ultimately then adding them back in and having sort of this custom, quickly built test plan. So let's move to the next phase, which is going to be documentation. So let's head over to, yeah, this is fun. All right. So, yeah, we'll take this guy. Okay. So let's add documentation for this block here. What we can do here is populate, whoops, we can go in from this quick command dropdown. We can say document code. And we're going to do this specific snippet. So let me go back. Document code. Sweet. Okay. Now what Tab9 is doing is Code Lens is going to be creating documentation for this specific block of code. Now, let's say that the what it generated wasn't exactly what you wanted, right? Let's say you're a weirdo like me, and you don't like blocks of documentation on the top that's easy to read. Let's say you want to change that to say, change the docs from blocks on top to line by line to the line by line, placing documentation to the right of each line of code. That prompt might have been a little bit longer than it needed to be, but early in the morning, my brain isn't thinking about refining these prompts quite yet. But I am thinking about refining how I had my documentation. You can see that it's now not on the top and it's to the side, which is exactly how I want it. So the last piece here, we've added new docs. We want to maintain, right? So what you can do is you can ask Tab9 outside of, let's say, your product team. Let's say that we want to ask Tab9 for ways to improve my application. Tab9 can be a really good, or you're looking for ways to improve your application. Tab9 can be a really good source of ideas for you to do that. Might not have everything ending up on the roadmap, but it can give you some really good ideas to get those wheels spinning, right? So we can ask Tab9 here to suggest 5 ways, improve the performance. Let's switch and UI of the fraud guard dashboard. So it'll provide suggestions. It'll provide sample code or suggested code. And thinking about that flow that we just went through, right? Going from Jira to where we're at now, Tab9 can't create new Jira tickets for you, but what you can do is you can ask Tab9 to create Jira ticket descriptions with acceptance criteria for each suggestion above.
Hey, Chris, while it's doing that,
Yeah.
question from Jim. How do you get quick commands in Windows? So if you're not using a MacBook.
Let me think about that. I thought it was Control I, but I could be.
Control I for Windows and Linux keyboard shortcut. Yep.
Yeah, and then
and
it's Command I for MacBooks.
Cool.
Any further questions? Or good to keep rolling?
Yeah, just from Martin, can you turn off the Tab9 completions and then specifically talk about suggestions in the code editor? And looks like one of our users, apologies if I butcher your name here, Borge, has figured out a way to do it. So Martin, if you want to disable those, you just open the Tabnine hub in VS Code, and you can disable code completions for specific file extensions if you don't want to use the code completions. He's talking specifically about code completions, not the
excuse me.
inline. Yeah, no worries. Alrighty, onwards. I'll hop back on if there's any more questions.
Cool. All right. So we're maintaining now, right? And like I said, you can't have Tabnine go into your Jira instance, create those tickets for you, so on and so forth. But you can get pretty darn close, which is having Tabnine suggest descriptions, suggest proper acceptance criteria, copy and paste it, tweak it, put it into Jira, and it's a rinse and repeat, which I think is pretty darn cool. The last bit we'll talk about in relation to going through this flow is got to be review, right? So let's go over to the code review, the code rules interface, and we'll go from there. So here's this interface. You can see predefined rules by Tabnine, as well as sort of a list of. So let me back up here. Within this rules interface, you'll see a ton of predefined rules, as well as other rules that are going to align with your unique standards. This is where they'll all be stored. So Tabnine Enterprise currently comes standard with a set of rules that we've gathered, evaluated, implemented based on software development best practices from leading voices in our space, right? So think of some of the folks we're partners with, some of the folks that I'm sure you guys hear in the market, big voices. We've come together to evaluate and implement practices based on what they all think and what we think, right, as leaders in this space. So you can see within this interface, you can visualize and fine-tune rule sets, right? You'll see good and bad examples. As Amaya said earlier in the session, when you send us rules, it can be as simple as, this first sentence. Tabnine will ingest and create the rest, right? So we'll create more elaborate descriptions based on the initial ones that you sent. We'll create good and bad examples. You can also then determine if it's public, if it's on by default, if it's specific to users or organizations, which level. Is it organization wide or just specific to users? And all of this is customizable, right? It's not put in here and then you can't change it, and that's just the way it is. All of these, this is a living, breathing interface, right? You'll also be able to see that currently, out of the box, we have architecture rules. We have rules for correctness. There's ones per performance, security, readability. I think that might be the main ones there. Yep. Okay. So let's move over to the PR side of things. When you're a developer, what does that look like, right? Also worth mentioning, just before we get there, sorry, on this rules interface, right? You can also upload or connect, for example, like a golden repo, and Tabnine will evaluate and analyze and create a rule set based on your code base. Golden repo, I mean by that is one that you think that you're doing everything best that you can there. That's where you see your best practices, your guidelines being enforced, so on and so forth. So connecting your repo to Tabnine, it can evaluate, analyze, and then create a rule set based on that specific code base. Again, all of which can be configured post-generation. So this developer flow, though, let's see what that looks like on a PR side. So when a developer makes a PR, Tabnine will review that code in the PR against your rule set, flag any deviations, and then offer any suggestions to fix that code, right? So we'll go through here. You can see, okay, this is the code in question, the file and the specific lines, the rule that's been validated, and then now the suggested revision. and it'll go through the entire file, the entire PR, right? And then ultimately giving you a summary table at the bottom telling you, what was found at a high level, right? We found X amount of issues, these errors, handful of warnings, and a few suggestions. So I hear you coming off mute here. I assume there's a question.
Yeah, from Alexander. How do you access these rules? Do they only apply to code completion? Sorry, do they only apply to code review is what he meant to ask, or also to code generation? So, Alex, great question. We're currently showing you is the application of these rules in code review in the PR. This is being shifted left into the IDE with verification agents, a capability that's coming really soon here on our roadmap. We're working on it right now already. So you'll see them shift left and apply directly inside of code generation itself in the IDE because, hey, if Tabnine already knows what the rules are and knows what the code should be, it should just generate the right code in the first place, right? So that's what we're going to deliver for you. So fantastic question, Alex.
Awesome. Okay. So this is coaching as a whole. I think one last bit I'll show you guys is the admin panel. So as an admin, say this is the self-hosted one. This is what you would see when you go in, right? So starting in analytics, it gets more and more granular as you go down this side, right? But high level useful information, seeing, really focusing on utilization, right? Being able to see how many active users, total usage, diving in even further, you can see, model usage, interactions per model, and so on and so forth. I think the really useful stuff here will be in the settings for these admins, right? So you're able to, let's go over to the models. This is where you can determine which models by toggling are available to your organization, as well as, whoops, let's see here. Why am I not? Okay. Brain fart there for me. Excuse me. Personalization is where you're going to be able to connect your repositories, right? So Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub, you can connect those repositories here, as well as enable Jira connection at a team-wide level as an administrator. So this is the general admin panel. If there's any questions, we can dive further into this. But happy to move back over here. We can talk about maybe some more fun things, answer any more questions that folks might have in the comments. I know we've talked a little bit about custom commands throughout this, so happy to answer any there, or even show some off sort of the functionality if there aren't any.
Yeah, well, let's do the custom commands and then a question from Jim. Code review functionality is in a GitHub PR. What about Azure DevOps server for PRs? So yeah, currently the code review functionality is on the GitHub PR. So the first thing we're going to deliver after this is shifting it left into the IDE itself, and that's really what the focus is on right now. Rather than adding on more support for various locations or systems where PRs occur. So, Jim, I guess that the educator should know on Azure DevOps server as of today, as far as I'm aware. But yeah.
So I think Jim might be excited to know that I think that I was told that we might have, or there is the ability for it requires some integration work, but there is some sort of level of supported integration with Azure DevOps pipelines. Not sure if that's the same thing as server. That's a lack of my total knowledge on the Azure ecosystem per se, but I do know that does require some work, but there is a leg of integration with the pipelines at least.
Yeah, Jim, reach out to your CSM. I don't want to say what account you're from. I know the account your current customer, Tabnine. So I'll have your CSM reach out to you.
Cool. Okay. So we've briefly talked about um, custom commands, but let's let's talk a little bit more. We'll go through each sort of these personalization areas within the settings. Um, so custom chat behaviors is now available for all Tab9 users, and I think fundamentally changes the way that developers can interact with Tab9 AI chat. Um, I think of it as having a configurable AI partner that automatically adjusts its expertise and communication style to match my needs, right? So we've seen some use cases that we've seen so far. You have a senior developer working on system architecture that can configure Tab9 to focus on scalability patterns, performance implications, or architectural trade-offs. When they ask about implementing a new microservice, they'll automatically receive a response that addresses service boundaries, API design, and deployment considerations. Um, Junior developers, I've seen Tab9 act sort of as a patient mentor, right? So you can configure it to provide detailed explanations that include not just the what, but the why behind each suggestion, right? So when you're reviewing a piece of code, it might highlight potential performance concerns while explaining the underlying computer concepts or computer science concepts behind them that cause those. And another really big win is international teams, right? Will particularly appreciate the language customization capabilities. So let's say development teams in Germany or Spain or any other location can now receive explanations, code comments, documentation in their preferred language, removing that communication barrier and ensuring that nothing really gets lost in translation. We've also, and this is sort of uh, where it gets a little fun, more fun, is for say we'll refer to it as like a process oriented goal or maybe team, right? You can use Tab9 to provide structured step-by-step responses for completing complex implementations. Um, so let's say you can ask when a developer requests guidance, it can automatically break down tasks into clear implementation steps. So it includes relevant code examples, provides a concise summary of changes. Um, you can have basically ask Tab9 to respond in answer in the following structure, right? So steps to implement, a separator line for each step, a one sentence description, so on and so forth. But you can specify all of that within here. Or heck, if you're feeling really crazy, you can create custom commands that have numbered lists of things to do, right? Like read this next project guidelines document as number one, then create documentation based on the guidelines outlined here in a new file for this or new test basically for like backtrack here. You can specify Tab9 to go in an itemized list, right? Saying, okay, I want to create documentation, analyze this sheet first, understand it, then create docs, but create docs using what I've outlined here. And then you can keep adding in more steps, right? But then going into custom behaviors, you can set Tab9 to run all those commands in sequence rather than doing it all at once, right? So then you can really start to play and tweak and create some really, really, really cool custom behaviors and functionality within Tab9. Um, to me, since I've been here, defining custom behaviors and defining custom commands, I think are two of the most powerful sort of unconstrained features that we've launched. I think there's so much that folks can do when it comes to toying around with these. So you'll see, for example, create docs
Hey,
from
sorry,
go ahead.
just to get a question. Sorry to cut you off.
Mhm.
Alexander, he doesn't in Eclipse. He doesn't have inline actions or right-click actions. So, Alexander, the Eclipse plugin was last updated on November 13th, 2024. Um, so it might just be that either you haven't updated your Eclipse plugin to the latest version, or that a lot of the Tabnine enterprise capabilities we're showing here have not been yet pushed to the Eclipse plugin. Majority of our users are really JetBrains family, VS Code, and Visual Studio. But try updating your plugin, and then after that, reach out to our support team through the support email, and they'll be able to guide you through that. Question from Lumi: which model doesn't use user code data for training? Great question. So out of the third-party models, I can tell you that Claude 3.5 does not use user code data for training, does not retain your data. Downright Protected obviously is completely safe to use from that perspective as well. Also, the other models that we have available, we have private endpoints with those. So the nature of the usage of those models is governed by the privacy and data regulation of those model providers. However, all the model providers we have publicly stated that they don't use user data for training, but some of them retain data for different periods of time. So I believe as of November of last year, the GPT model family, for example, this is specifically when you're using Tabnine Dev via SaaS. This doesn't apply at all for our enterprise deployments and our self-hosted deployments. Puts this out of the question entirely. So specifically for Tabnine Dev SaaS on Tabnine Dev, that GPT-4o, I believe, retains data for 28 days, but does not use it for training. So yeah, let me really figure out your organization's policies around data privacy and model usage, and then use the model that fits your org's privacy policies accordingly. But the two ones that you can always use safely are Claude 3.5 and Tabnine Protected. But we also give you that information around privacy and protection of each model set in the switchable models drop down directly. Awesome. Sounds good, Pratik. Hope you enjoy that. And of course, to get access to our enterprise features for exploring those, you do need to reach out to us and have us set you up with a evaluation. So you won't be able to do our code review agent or explore that unless you're Tabnine Enterprise Evaluation or Tabnine Enterprise customer. All righty.
Cool. Okay. So on the topic of custom commands, I'll show a couple of them really quickly. And the idea of doing things that are multi-step, for example, reference this sheet. So referencing a file and then create something based on what I've asked you to already go reference. It's as 2 steps, right? But 3, 4, 5. There are, not really. I mean, I'm sure there are limits, right? But I find this really, really neat and something that's unique to Tab9. You can also then share each of these custom commands with other team members via your SCM. It's shared via an SCM tool, right? So when you do share these, in this case, you can't use @mentions, but that's something I'm going to push through to the product team as a nice to have. But let's say that you didn't have one of these. We'll go to, oh man, I think more people need to experience Steve Ballmer mode. So what I'll do is edit. You can click this share, and what it'll do is if you don't already have a Tab9's commands file, it'll create one. If you do, it'll add it to that list. What that is a file here that will get pushed with your code, that when anyone ends up pulling it down, they will see those custom commands available to them within their AI chat or within their drop down here, which is, I think, pretty powerful, pretty cool. It's a good way to standardize. We'll say, use marketing terms, standardize excellence across teams, right? It's a really good way to provide users with the ability to take the heavy lifting out of prompt engineering for tasks and questions they often find themselves asking in chat. Same goes for, I'm sure you have coworkers who have tapped you on the shoulder before and said, "Hey, I like the way you're doing that. How do you do that?" Well, instead of having to explain it to them or repeatedly answer their Slacks or team messages, you can create a custom command and share it with that project. So everyone who, when they open it up or open up that project, they have all the required or necessary needed functionality to make their lives easier, to make them do work faster, to make it do it right. So you can use custom commands, for example, to create security audit workflows to check for maybe common vulns or analyze dependency risks or suggest security improvements. You can do it for code refactoring, right? You can ask Tabnine to refactor patterns or code refactoring patterns that align with your team's architectural standards and performance requirements. You can use it for documentation generators. Let's say you want to specifically use Java docs or a shortened framework for the language that you're coding in. You can use the custom command to always pull from that specific doc or the markdown file that outlines that, and then create that consistent, comprehensive documentation following your team's templates. It's really, really cool, really powerful. I think it's a great way, again, to sort of standardize, one person's excellence and spread it out to the entire team, right? It's removing silos of information that you often find in large enterprise organizations. It's hard to not run into those. And I think, let's see here, custom chat behaviors, response length. We briefly talked about that, right? But concise or comprehensive. And then you'll also notice, I think one last thing here to bring up is we've done a little facelift. The Tabnine, right? So a modern facelift, I say, for modern development. So it was sort of been rebuilt to provide much more of an intuitive user experience that is aiming to match the sophistication of your development workflow, right? It's not just about aesthetics, but it's about making every interaction with Tabnine more efficient and more enjoyable. So I'll stop there. If there's any comments, questions, concerns, anything we want to talk about. But I think that's about it for that leg of the demo. So I'll close this down for now, and we'll put our faces back up here. Appreciate everyone's questions, by the way. There's a lot of good ones coming in today. So thank you very much.
All right, we'll stay on for another 30 seconds for any more questions. And then, hey, we're here every week, every Wednesday, Tabnine Office Hours. And you can sign up from our webpage, tabnine.com/tabnine-office-hours, and share it with your team. You can also subscribe to our newsletter off of our blog page. Well, thank you, Alex. We're glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for everyone for joining us today and the great questions. So we'll go ahead and close this out and see some of you next week. And have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, see everyone next week. Cheers.